What's going on, everyone? It's Arne from Evenant, and in this video I want to show you our brand new taster pack from Composer Master Tools. And I also want to give you some tips and tricks for how to avoid your tracks becoming stagnant and make sure that it keeps growing and growing for every repetition, every section of the song. But the first thing I want to look at is this demo right in front of me here. I made a quick little demonstration of some of the sounds in this free pack, and I just want to play it for you, and then we can dive into some details right after. Let's do it. Alright, so this track is of course very basic, but I kept it very minimal in order to just kind of give the sounds some space to breathe and to showcase them in a manner where you can hear them. So of course 100% of this is just straight out of the pack, and as you can see there's very little mixing or processing going on. There's just a little bit of low cuts on some of the samples that I've been doubling, especially like the hits, and then a little bit of reverb on one of them, but that's pretty much it. Everything else is just dialing in the volume levels a little bit, but I haven't really done any mixing here. This is just being drag and drop, throwing things together in a matter of 15-20 minutes. So let me go through some of these folders in here and show you some of the sounds just in isolation, and then we can look at some of the ways they've been layered and some tips and tricks I have for making sure that these impacts actually just hit and create some growth in your track. So let's start with this hit folder. We have a range of hits in here, from light like this to really like fat and epic hits, essentially. That one is insane. So you have really standard kind of just straight hits, as well as some that have more just oomph to them, more sound effects and a whoosh going into it. And then if we go over to these whooshes, you can see we have even more like more transition based rolls and hits. So let's try this one. These rolls are definitely some of my favorites. I've been looking for a while for rolls like this because they really just make the transition just so much more deep and impactful. Like, listen to this with and without this roll. Without. With it again. It just creates such a nice ramp up into the hit that I really like. So that's just a quick tip that I have, is not just using straight hits without any reverses or whooshes before it, but try to layer that with deep rolls like this, as well as hits that has a little bit of a whoosh to it, like this one. And then with a hit that has a little bit more high-end energy, because these ones are really nice and deep, which you definitely want. But it's really nice to layer these sounds with something that has a little bit more high end to it, like this one. And then you see on this one, I've taken out some of the low end. I haven't really done a like very careful cut where I've been carefully listening to exactly the frequency point. I've just kind of cleaned out some of the low end, and then I'm gonna get back to things later because I did this very quickly. But this is what it sounds like, all three hits together. And then there's a big boom that I've taken out some of the low end on this one as well, because I use it kind of more like a deep drum. And all together they sound like this. But listen, if I take away the whoosh, how different it is. So utilize whooshes and whoosh hits and rolls and things like that to lead into your hits in order to just make things feel just extra big, and you get so much more momentum going into the section essentially. So let's move on and listen to some of the risers in here as well. So I got a couple of them displayed right here. This is one called Intense Bike. And one called Big Orchestral Lift. So these were recorded with real orchestras because it just works really well to have the blend of more electronic risers and orchestral risers. So definitely wanted those represented here as well. And then we have this one. This is another great one to layer with other risers as well, just to give a sense of chaos. And then we have this one, which is a lot more clean, just white noise based. Then moving over to the pings, we have some tonal pings in this demo as well, like these. And then the second time it comes back, work really well together. So you can see it's Danger, Close, and Bad Dream, which you find here. And as you can probably tell, I have pitched this one just 2 semitones up from C to D. We made sure to mark the pitch on them so it's easy to work with as well. And then we have a few other ones as well. Then we got a bunch of downers. I have, I think, just one in this demo. It's the clean drop 1. Works really well, but we also have downers like this. So they're ranging from very clean and basic to more intense and distorted, depending on the style of music you're working with and kind of what you need in that given break. Then we also have braams here. There's one braam that's featured very heavily in this demo, which is this Jupiter one. This one is evolving quite a lot, and what you might notice is that I've taken the ending of this and then if you listen to the beginning, I just like the tonal quality to the end, so I just chopped that off. And there's a few longer ones here where you can actually do those kind of things, like this one. There's a lot of different braams and signatures in here. And then we have booms. This one is really cool. And then from here we also have a bunch of atmospheric textures. So you can hear one being played in the background here. This is just a very basic kind of string drone, and we have some ambiences as well. Some recorded vinyl hiss, some higher ones. And these are all recorded live, of course, very closely and with a lot of evolving textures in them, so they never kind of stagnate. And moving on from that, we have our drums. In here we got some loops, some simple ticking, claps for builds, just some basic drum loops, and you can cut these up and take individual kicks and snares and so on and create your own grooves. Then we got a bunch of different snares, kicks, foley, cymbals, claps, and so on in here. A lot of different things for different applications. Kicks. We got some hats. Recorded from analog synths and so on. Some foley recorded in the forest. Really cool to play around with in the tracks. Cymbal rolls. Bunch of claps. Really good for like big cinematic builds and kind of cinematic pop rock and so on. And then what have we missed? We have not looked at the reverses yet. Those are really cool as well. So we have both tonal and atonal reverses. And the tonal ones will have a note or a key next to them, and the atonal ones will not. So let's listen to this one. So these are the tonal ones that work really well in more beautiful, ethereal tracks and giving you like these really nice tonal swells into a new section. And this one I used the malware one. And I pitched that one 2 semitones down, and it leads into one of the hits here. And then we have some voices. It's recorded from flutes, guitars, voices, and so on. We have some signature sounds. And then one of the coolest things in this pack is that we actually have a collection of source material from Joshua's private vault of recordings from the past 10 years. So we have a little taster here which you can use to layer with hits or create your own sound design from scratch, essentially. So here we have some hits recordings. And these are really great starting points to, again, layer with existing sounds and process from there, or start creating your own hits from scratch. Just already really cool on its own. So there's a lot to dive into here. This pack is completely free. You can download it in the link in the description below this video. And let's dive back into the demo real quick. And I just want to give you some tips on how to make a track grow and evolve constantly, and avoiding some mistakes that I see a lot of people make, especially in the beginning. So let's have a look at this. So one thing I want you to note is that even though this is a very ridiculously simple piece of music with just a few braams, it's a very much stereotypical trailer intro. I did really not try to reinvent the wheel here, but you notice that nothing is repeating the same thing twice. So we have this main sound, the braam. That's the first time. The second time I'm introducing a second octave above. So I'm duplicating the sound, just taking it up an octave, down in volume a little bit, giving it a slight bit of reverb and some EQing to get rid of nasty frequencies, and then we have this. And then the last time I'm actually introducing a Serum preset right here. And I followed a similar method for the hits and the booms and so on. So the first time we have just a boom. Second time we have a boom with the hit. And then we have another kind of hit with a bit of a roll and a roll going into the next one. And then we have one here too, where I added another roll and a reverse. So every time it's evolving, it's growing, something else is being added. And in addition to these hits, you see I'm also adding these tonal effects. So you can see this. And you see the second time on the ping, I'm actually doubling the ping with another sound, so even that sound in isolation is evolving. So I'm not adding any new elements in, I'm just reinforcing what's already there and just making the individual elements kind of evolve and be more stacked. And then I'm doing that individually on all the different sections, the hits, the tonal pings, and then the main braam. But it's like a call and response thing where everything kind of has its space to shine. And then you can notice that I've also added a downer. Because that feels like too long of a break. It's just stagnating at that point, and I'm imagining an editor that would be cutting something would maybe want something like a cut there, to not just linger on that note for too long. So I'm giving them an edit point and something for the listener to kind of take you through the end of that measure into the next section. And then the second time I'm realizing I actually added another downer that is more powerful, like this. And I layered that with a bunch of hits going into the end. So that's something I really want you to keep in mind, because I see a lot of tracks being just copy-paste the same section or same sound over and over. The signature sound is never evolving, the hits are never evolving, it's the same thing being repeated. And even just repeating something twice, it kind of loses interest a little bit. So that's something that I really recommend utilizing and doing in order to keep your track interesting, especially in these kind of cinematic styles. So let me show you kind of the importance of this by taking away some of these additions, so that it's just the same thing over and over here. Let's listen. You see already there, when that hit comes in, you expect more. You feel let down because there's nothing else happening. You kind of feel that's it. But now if I introduce these elements, now it has excitement. And in these sections as well, we could go further and add more tension, more urgency, say by using some of these tonal loops, adding in, the drums. I want to add in maybe this clock. Maybe do slower. So see here now, I've just made sure that everything evolves, everything builds into a climax. I'm using these risers, I'm layering more hits. And when I'm layering these hits, you see that I am using a low element, something with more mids and high energy, something that has more of a deep roll and impact, and then something that has more of a rolling quality like this. And then I've also used a reverse leading into it. Same thing goes for this section here. So those are some tips just from this demo that you can utilize in general. I really recommend downloading these sounds, and then you can actually practice with layering some of these different sounds and different hits. So That's all for now. I really hope you enjoyed this little breakdown. I hope you're as excited about these sounds as I am. I know you're gonna love them. So click the link in the description